Hi and hello again to everybody that's been listening to our videos. We've had several thousand viewings now, and we're quite excited about that. So somebody seems to like us, Mike. I'm not sure what day of lockdown we are in now, but it does feel like a lifetime ago. Certainly since the last time I sat in Starbucks. So tonight, by the way, the new series we're doing this next 5 days, we're calling it the Lockdown Diaries, where we're kind of looking and observing all of the things that we are feeling and thinking as we are in lockdown. And we'd love to hear from you guys as well as to your thoughts and ideas. But I'm going to hand over to my esteemed colleague and friend, Mr. Mike Ivy, to kick us off tonight's conversation. Mikey.
Great, thanks, AB. So yesterday we introduced sort of the concept of wisdom. Wisdom is all around us. Are we listening? Wisdom speaks to us and almost wants a response. So it's a lovely thought. What wisdom are you gaining in your different rhythm in this new place? Now, I remember years ago asking people a question, and quite a nice question, I think. It's if you had an extra hour in a day, what would you do with an extra hour? So we all know that time is finite. There's 24 hours in a day. So if you could miraculously be given a 25-hour day, what would you do with your hour? So, Mr. Betts, what would you do with an extra hour in the day?
Now, this depends on how honest you want me to really be here and to whom the audience is really.
But think it through. So if you were given an hour a day, what would possibly be on that list? Top one or two things? Because everybody says that if only I had more time.
Yeah.
So imagine we could give you an extra hour. What would you do?
Yeah, I think the thing I've enjoyed the most about this lockdown period is the enforced sense of the need to be creative and to do things. So I'm being far more creative in these last three weeks or so than I've probably been in the last 3 years in some respects. And so I would probably say now, I would like to have an extra hour where I can be more creative, either behind the piano or doing a podcast or writing a bit of poetry. So I'm thoroughly feeling exercised around being more creative. And I think that would now be my extra hour. I guess some days I would have probably said an hour in bed, probably would have been helpful. But I think now I would opt my extra hour to be behind the piano or doing something that I felt was creative. Yeah.
And I think, Davey, so well done to you, because you, in the lockdown period, I've definitely seen you being creative, and even what we're doing here, and I've seen some of your YouTube videos on you and Kerry singing, and so you are actually using time that you've got now to be creative. Because here's what really struck me. So for a couple of years I've asked this question: if you had an extra hour a day, what would you use it for? And we've never ever really been able to test it, because we can't give that extra hour a day. But in a strange way, most people have been given an extra hour a day.
Because extra hours, I would say.
Hours, yeah. But even if we just hone in on one thing, I would suggest that most people spend an hour in traffic in a day.
Yep.
And we know that most of us, unless we're essential services, are actually not in traffic anymore. So overnight we've been given this hour, and we get it. Life has changed and it's shuffled our time around. But right now we have this extra hour. Now, I've always wondered, if we were able to be given this gift of an extra hour a day, most of us would possibly know what we want it for, but would we actually use it for that? Because in many ways, life would probably come along with the urgencies and gobble it up. And that's why I'm saying well done to you, because you are using it in probably the way that you said you would use it. And here's the funny part. For some people, maybe that extra hour a day is sleep. But the question is, are you using it for sleep now? Or are you using it for self-growth? Or are you using it for your family?
I love the question. I'm going to ask you that same question, but I'm going to give you a few minutes to think about that, which you didn't for me. I think though, there is for me, there's a fear that I don't want to get to the end of this and then look back and think I didn't make the most of it. So I do feel actually a sense of pressure, but I'm using it in the nicer sense of the word, to make the most of this time, you know. And I would certainly encourage those that are listening into this is to get to the point when you get to the end of this lockdown period to say, I use every moment of this time. If it's rest, to rest, and I rested properly, you know, rather than just watch TV. I'm not saying that's bad, but more than that, to read, to relax, to learn something new, you know. And I'm driven, I guess, almost by a fear that I don't want to miss out on this opportunity. Now, I am still working, so I'm still trying to run a business, which isn't this. This is the fun part. The other part is the business where we need to make money, and there's a pressure there to make sure that, you know, I don't want to get to the gates are open and now suddenly my business stalls as well. So there is a balance here.
Yeah.
So my question to you, Mikey, is another hour. What would you do with your hour?
Yeah, so mine is very much around growth, self-growth, reading, listening to podcasts. Now I do that in a normal day, you know. So part of my, in order for me to do my job well, I feel I need to be quite well read, learned, and so it does come natural. But I'm finding that I always wish I had more time, and so I have found myself going into certain podcasts, listening to other things that maybe under the normal circumstance of life get sort of left behind. But I think it's a wonderful way to actually really justify that we do have an extra hour a day because of the traffic, and claim it.
I love that.
Yeah. Carry on. Yeah.
I love that. I'm thinking, my mind's spinning now. So you're in the zone again. I was actually talking to my son today about, you know, the 5 drivers that we have. Just to remind us all, it's security, it's variety, it's love and connection, it's significance, and it's personal growth. Those are the 5 key drivers that we have. And whenever we feel frustrated or anxious, it's usually one of those 5 drivers that is not being exercised. And so it's important that in these lockdown times that we understand which driver is not feeling. And I guess sometimes for a lot of people, feeling significant when you're in a home, you're not able to change or influence anything. It's just now you know, on your own at home. You're not in any board meetings. You've not got the kudos of people around you. I can imagine a lot of people must struggle with that significance driver. You know, does my life matter? Do I count? What's my purpose in life? What do you think? I'm suspecting people probably, you know, struggle with those.
Yes, and if it is purpose, you know, it is this wonderful opportunity to then sort of spend that time doing a little bit of that work, and beginning to probably try and exercise some of that time in the place of purpose. So
what does that look like?
I'm just sort of thinking, well, you know, purpose is a huge question, and it's not easily answered, but certainly there's some leading questions which can help us here, and a simple question like, well, like, what makes you angry, is probably a forerunner to something around purpose. I love the question, what is the gift that comes with me when I come into a room? So that's again a bit of a leading question to purpose. And then I think purpose is also found and look around and see the needs that are there and begin to just step up and meet those needs. So if the sense of do I have contribution to add to life is one of those pressing things of the 5 that you mentioned, the encouragement would be, well, you've got the hour, so use the hour to get on your phone and be sending messages of love, sending messages of encouragement, reaching out to people.
Yes.
The danger is, and I think this is really the danger, is that you and I are going to fill up that hour with more urgency. So we're going to just have another work meeting. We're going to be doing something that we're already doing. So it leads me on to, it's quite strange, Dave. I think this is about 7 or 8 conversation we've done, and I'm about to mention Stephen Covey's name again, and I think we've mentioned it about 2-3 times. So it is quite interesting. But you know, that model of Covey's, which I think is probably maybe his most famous model. It's that time model, and how so many of us are spending time in urgent and important areas, and that the quadrant that is most often neglected is the not urgent but important.
Yes.
And I think the hour that we're talking about here is probably invariably going to fit into that quadrant. It's not urgent. That's why you don't do it under the normal rhythm of life, but it is hugely important to you.
Yes.
So things such as self-growth, things such as contribution, things such as self-care. So if somebody had to turn around and say to me, I do actually need to use that hour for sleep. For many people, I'd probably look at them and say, I agree with you so much.
Yep.
You know, go and catch up on well-needed rest in this period, because you're spot on there.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, the quadrant that you talk about. In fact, that's amazing. Only today, one of my work colleagues mentioned this quadrant again, you know, which is at the core of a lot of Covey's teachings. And it is, you're right. We need to actually, even when this craziness season's finished, we need to actually live more in the important but not urgent. Because the cortisone levels and all of that we have buzzing in our is not good for us, a sustained level. And so practicing in this period of time to remain in the important but not urgent box is probably quite a crucial thing for us to do, to practice that. And so that when we go into the back into the flay of things, that we recognize these raised levels of cortisone and anxiety, and we push ourselves back, maybe even adopting the regime of, I'm going to find that hour. When the lockdown's over, I'm going to find that hour.
Yeah, it's a good point, because if we can create that rhythm now, you'll probably carry it on into a non-lockdown state. I think what's crucial here, though, is you've got to name it. If you can't name it, you probably can't live into it. And even if naming purpose is the thing that you name, and you have to go and do a bit of work around it, the moment you name it, you can live into it. But what a wonderful thought. And it hit me the other day when I was working with some people, that for most of us, I know that every single day, working day, I'm definitely in the traffic for an hour. I'm in my car, and yes, I'm using the time as best I can, but suddenly I've got this hour available to me, and name it, claim it, and my mind's racing. Name it, claim it, let others know about it, and then just give yourself that hour, because it's something that maybe is here now. And like you say, if we can find a rhythm in it, we might carry it over into the next.
I agree. I'm doing a seminar tomorrow on situational leadership, and one of the elements of that, firstly, is the leader himself or herself needs to have self-awareness, the ability to know how you are feeling and where you are at as a person before you engage with others. Now, one of the things I think this lockdown is an opportunity is for us to observe our own emotional state, our own place of being. You know, I've said this probably a few times now, observing where one is at and having that internal conversation that it's okay to feel this, to slow down, to find it's okay to go upstairs and lie down on the bed for that 1 hour, to have that mental, you know, I need this. Speak to yourself and to be aware of the needs that your body has. Because I think a lot of the time when we're rushing, we're unaware of what our body is saying. Our body may be screaming, but we're not paying it any attention. Now we've turned the dial down on all the noise that's around us. We have an opportunity to become aware of what our body and our mind and more importantly, our soul is saying to us. And that should inform what we should do with that extra hour, right?
Yes.
You know, if our body's saying we're tired, is our soul saying we need connection? And that hour must be a place of seeking connection. Is our soul saying we need significance? Then that hour must be about writing something that would change other people's lives or view, you know?
Yeah.
So I think awareness of our soul, our body, our emotions, and then bringing that hour into bear with that is important.
Yeah. Beautifully said. Yeah, and it could be physical, in the sense of exercise and things like that. Well, he has the opportunity.
Yeah.
It's a rare moment where we have been given, for most people, an hour a day. Have we seen it? And let's use it.
Absolutely, Mike. Absolutely. Well, it's been another good chat.
Yeah, and in some ways, Davey, what we're doing here is, I suppose, us using a little bit of that hour, because we know we don't normally get that right.
That's right.
We'll never get this right. Yeah.
But also something that we are doing. We're being intentional. We put something in the diary, and we said at this certain time every day we will meet and we will do that. And I think one of the things is this time isn't the absence of discipline. In fact, putting disciplines in will help us to be able to find the time, so we don't waste it as well, I think. So, Mike, great chatting with you again. And look forward to our conversation tomorrow and see where that takes us.
Great. Super, Davey.
And you, take care.